Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Hey, Stella!
You got him, Jack! I love you! Have fun storming the castle.
When the legend becomes fact, print the legend.
Tell them we'll have punch and pack. We're not gonna have punch and pie. My bill will come if they think we have punch and pack.
Hello and welcome to Frame, part of Punch and Pie Media. We are the podcast that take two seemingly unconnected films and slam them together like bluegrass and a sponge underwater. I'm Andy Williams.
And I'm Sean Wilson.
And this week we're looking at two films inspired by the Odyssey. So we're talking about Homer's Odyssey, not the recently released Chris Nolan movie. But the movies we're going to be talking about this week will be Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And the first SpongeBob Squarepants movie. But Sean, what is your history with Odysseys?
What in the literary sense, or just generally?
Generally.
Well, we're all on our own Odyssey, aren't we? We've been on an Odyssey with this podcast for nearly 6.5 years now.
This is true.
Yeah, I've made several Odysseys. I've travelled. I think a healthy amount, and it always teaches one a good deal about hardship. I think.
Have you faced cyclopses and sirens and all manner of different obstacles?
Well, I mean, I've faced angry hotel owners and cab drivers. Is that the equivalent of an angry cyclops? I mean, I suppose there was less eating of people in that instance, which is always a bonus when you go on holiday. So
you would hope so. You would hope
so. One place I haven't been actually is Greece, and you'd think that's quite bad, really, isn't it? And I do want to go to the Peloponnese now, where which is said to have inspired the locations in Homer's original. That's where it was said to have been based, and that's where Nolan filmed a lot of his recent film. So I do want to go there. Definitely.
Yes, and you're the one of the two of us that has read the original Odyssey as well.
Mm-hmm. Back in April of this year, April of 2026, I read the E.V. Ryu Penguin Classics edition. I had this beautiful hardback embossed cover, and I should say that was a prose translation of the original poem, because what I basically wanted was the basics, like the basic facts as relayed in prose. It's a very well respected translation, but there isn't one definitive translation. That Nolan used the recent Emily Wilson adaptation for his version of the Odyssey, I believe. I kind of went a bit more old school, and I was for what it was, bearing in mind it's not the definitive adaptation, but it is a very good one. I was enthralled with it. I thought it was wonderful. Really exciting to read.
Didn't Stephen Fry do a version?
I'm sure he has done.
Remembering?
He's got many fingers in many literary pies. I'm sure Stephen Fry has been all over this, and he is a font of wisdom about this stuff. I'm not an expert on this, never have been, never will be, but I was really taken with the richness of the themes and the dynamism of the characters and the teeming multitude of the various plot strands. I mean, I was reading it thinking, how on earth is Christopher Nolan going to do this? And obviously we're not here to talk about that. We'll leave that hanging. I mean, no doubt we'll probably come back to do Nolan's version of the Odyssey, maybe in some long distant episode hence. So
at some point.
Who
knows? But we are looking at two other retellings of the Odyssey, and these are, I think, slightly unexpected adaptations. I mean, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It literally puts it in the credits, but even still, it's not the first thing you think of when you think of Greek mythology. But Sean, you're going to take us back to the year 2000, which is directed just by Joel Coen, because Directors Guild demanded as such. And written by Joel and Ethan Coen. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
See, when you said the year 2000 there, that seems as positively archaic as when we're talking about the Odyssey being 3,000 years ago, because I was 13, and that seems like a very long time ago now. I remember this film coming out, even though I didn't see it at the cinema.
A quarter of a century.
Yeah. Oh no, that's just cruel when you underline it like that. When you make it more empirical, like that really make me realise what I've lost. You turn me into Odysseus. You really have. So yeah, just
Well, yes.
yeah,
I mean,
just
what
not
you
as
could do in
strapping.
20 years.
Yeah, yeah. But I think what this shows is how malleable the themes of Homer's original epic poem are, and it should say that the provenance of the Odyssey is not known, and it's often alleged that Homer wasn't one person, and these stories were told orally and musically. They weren't written down until many centuries later. So the origins of the Odyssey are still very, very much up for debate. That's one of the most intriguing and enthralling aspects of it, and that's why the tale is so adaptable. People have put many, many different stamps on it over the years in a cinematic sense, and so yeah, we get to Joel and Ethan Coen, as you said, only one of them credited with "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," which is basically a satirical musical take on the Homer original, set in the American Deep South. So what you have here is an amalgamation of a very, very loose adaptation of the original source. It's more representative of the themes and some very, very basic surface detail, but one shouldn't go into this
Mhm.
expecting a literal minded adaptation of Homer. It's clearly not what this is. It's more taking the principles of the story and transposing them onto different characters and a very, very different environment. So it takes place in the summer of 1937, Mississippi. So three members of a chain gang, Pete, Delmar, and Everett. So that's George Clooney, John Turturro, and Tim Blake Nelson, all of whom are Coen Brothers regulars, basically escape the chain gang. And what then happens is an absurdist, surreal, folksy inversion of what would have happened with Odysseus in the Odyssey. So in the Odyssey, Odysseus, having spent 10 years participating in the siege and eventual destruction of Troy, wants to get home to Ithaca, to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus, who's grown up in his absence. In this, you have basically three idiotic members of a chain gang who initially are literally chained together, who go on this picaresque search for buried treasure. On the way, encountering a whole host of weird, assorted characters who are analogous with Homer in a strange way. So one of the more explicit, overt examples of this is the scene with the sirens, where they do literally come across three women bathing in a river who promptly seduce the men.
Yes. Can I just say, when I was watching this, that is when my children decided to walk in and
That's
ask what I
awkward.
was watching.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think I remember it wasn't with this. I remember being a child and I walked in on my dad watching Eurotrash. You remember that with Antoine de Caunes? That
I
yeah,
do, yeah.
that was awkward. He had to promptly turn it off, and I think he was maybe a bit disappointed that he had to do that. So yeah,
Mm,
we've all been there. I think. Haven't we?
yes, yes, indeed. But yes, so they were they encountered the sirens.
Yes. Yeah. So that's quite a formative moment for everyone involved, both in the film and outside the film.
Well, yes.
Yeah. But you have several characters who are, as I said, like bear some kind of comparison. I mentioned the sirens. So you have so Everett, George Clooney's character's ex-wife, is Penny, played by Holly Hunter. She broadly corresponds with Penelope. You have another Coen Brothers regular, John Goodman, as Big Dan, who is a one-eyed Ku Klux Klan member masquerading as a Bible salesman, who is broadly representative of the Cyclops Polyphemus, which is one of the most memorable parts of the Odyssey, and again that features in Nolan's movie. So many characters. You have people who are analogous with Menelaus. You have characters sort of analogous of the suitors, and so on and so forth. You have a character played by Stephen Root, who is said to correspond with Homer. And basically,
Mhm.
what happens is that in order to lie low from the law, our three central characters, while they're on this meandering odyssey through the deep south, masquerade as this new folksy radio sensation called the Soggy Bottom Boys. And wouldn't you know it, they turn out to be a hit.
Do.
And
That's the bluegrass music that we mentioned.
Courtesy of T-Bone Burnett, who wrote the songs that are performed diegetically in the film. Although the actors, I believe, were all overdubbed. I think George Clooney, at least, was overdubbed.
Yes, he was. And I think "Man of Constant Sorrow" that's an old folk song anyway.
Yes, yes. So, and again, that
sort of arranged by, I think that is in the keeping of Homer and the retelling of the Odyssey. It's one of those songs that was just passed down.
Yeah, exactly. Passed down from generation to generation. You highlight something there, which the Coen Brothers also pick up on, which is the history of the Odyssey as musicality. So it's often said that one of the reasons why in the original text, depending on which one you read, there are so many repetitive phrases. So dawn, whenever dawn is mentioned in Homer's original, it's always like versions of rosy fingered dawn. That turns up like literally about 10 times on every page. And it's often said that the reason for that is because this tale was originally spoken orally, and it was a handy way of lodging it in a live audience's head. Like, you repeat the same phrases so they can learn to anticipate and enjoy what's going to happen. So very, very rich history of musicality that is obviously taken to a literal degree in this film, when you have our central characters basically becoming this hillbilly, folksy, bluesy radio sensation, and many typical madcap Coen Brothers hijinks ensue. As I said, the Ku Klux Klan are thrown in there and promptly shown to be complete nitwits. So what else is new?
Well, of course.
Of course, yeah. And they end up being involved in a campaign rally for this character called Homer Stokes, and many other characters in there. You have Charles Durning, who is the Menelaus equivalent, Pappy, who is the governor of Mississippi. It's said to correspond with Zeus as well. So many elements circling around that echo the text without obviously in putting it in a very sort of Coen Brothers oeuvre. I've spoken a lot. What do you think of the film first?
So I actually think it's one of the Coen Brothers' most accessible and successful films, of the comedic varieties. So when you're looking at the Coen Brothers, I think Fargo, No Country for Old Men are that they're streets and leagues ahead of everything else. But
Blood Simple as well. Blood Simple is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I need to revisit Blood Simple, but yes, I'm not going to dispute that. But when you look at their comedy output, you're looking at things like Raising Arizona, The Big Lebowski, the Intolerable Cruelty and the Lady Killers, and
Burn After Reading,
Hail Caesar. Anyway, this being one of the most sort of outlandish, farcical films that they did, I think it's the most successful of those. It is episodic by its very nature, and it works. The main trio are interesting, and you feel for them, and the way that they're characterized and their relationships, it works, and the chemistry is there on screen when you've got the three actors that you do in Tim Blake Nelson, John Goodman, and George Clooney. It is, I mean, it's clear that those three clearly they seem to get on. I don't want to put words in mouths, but they very clearly seem to get on. And Clooney's charming. Clooney just does have charm, which is something that Odysseus kind of needs. So, he cares. I think Ulysses McGill cares more about his hair than Odysseus does, but for the most part, I think he's very clearly the transposition.
Yeah, if he doesn't get the right pomade for his hair, he gets very angry about that at one point. Yeah.
What do you make of the film? I'm assuming you like it.
I think I'm less keen on it than you are. I think that it's an interesting conceptual exercise. I think that for me, it would, although you might contend this, it would likely be best appreciated by those who have some kind of familiarity with the text, because those references are so deeply embedded within it to an extent that I think a lot of people just might not get why the film is being made at all. You think, okay, it's just about these three idiotic hicks kind of making their way through the Deep South. I think conceptually it's interesting. I think that the actors are committed in that manic, zany kind of gurning way that actors often are in Coen Brothers comedies. Sometimes I find that funny, sometimes I don't. This is more middling. It's interesting when you said that you thought this is the most successful Coen Brothers comedy, because I have a question for you. Do you think this is better than The Big Lebowski?
I think this is more outwardly funny than The Big Lebowski.
Really? See, I
Yeah.
don't think that at all. Not at all.
So I came at this from not even knowing that it was an adaptation of the Odyssey when I first watched it. And I thought it was three gurning idiots, right? And it's only upon subsequent viewings that I have appreciated it more and more for what it is. And I think that when you've got the central trio that you do, I think that there is such a strength of comedy and such a strength of pathos and across the three lead actors that they help elevate material that in other hands and in lesser hands wouldn't be as funny. I think the Big Lebowski is probably better written and certainly more verbose. But in terms of farcical comedy, this is funnier.
Okay, that's interesting, because I think The Big Lebowski is genuinely hilarious and poignant at times. Yeah,
both things can be true.
yeah.
I think The Big Lebowski is hilarious,
but you're finding a different kind of comedy register in this, is basically what you're saying. Yeah. See, I think this is a film made for the pleasure of the filmmakers. That's not necessarily always a bad thing, but I think this is definitely one of the Coen Brothers movies that they made for themselves, albeit with a great deal of love and attention. I'm not denying that at all. I think that the actors are committed. It's interesting when you said, George Clooney's lead character, comparing him to Odysseus. I mean, the thing is with Odysseus in the Odyssey, he's very wily. He's very wily and he's very intelligent. I mean, George Clooney's character in this is basically, he's a chancer and he's an idiot, although there are elements of Odysseus in there.
yeah,
but
he's very fast talking, isn't he? He's charming.
Yeah, he's charming in that kind of dumbbell kind of way, which George Clooney is very, very good at doing that. Because I think George Clooney is absolutely hilarious in Burn After Reading and Hail Caesar. I think he's very, when George Clooney is allowed to play these complete weirdos, he's very good at it. And he clearly vibes with the Coen brothers very, very well. He clearly likes the opportunity to let his pomaded hair down. And I mean, Tim Blake Nelson and John Turturro are always a joy to watch. Obviously we've spoken about Barton Fink on this podcast, which is one of our favorite non-comedy Coen Brothers movies. It's a masterpiece.
Yes.
I love Tim Blake Nelson in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, in which he appears in the title, so he's fantastic in that. As
he is, but I had more problems with that movie. When you talk about episodic, like, that is very episodic, and his story is the best one in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this film, it is coherent. I mean, it is amazing that when I read the Odyssey, I was amazed at how it coheres as a story with so much going on, and the way it does cohere in the original story about a man getting back to his wife, which is what the Odyssey is. And this movie is loyal to that, and about George Clooney, vowing to get back to Holly Hunter's character, with the prospect of the buried treasure thrown into it as well. It's more, the digressions along the way are, I think they're a mixed bag. I think some of them are funny. I think some of them are more of an intellectual exercise in the idea of comedy, as opposed to actually being funny themselves, which is an issue I have with a lot of Coen Brothers comedies.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's a personal taste of comedy, though, isn't it? That's the thing. Some people vibe with different things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I believe the fact that... Oh, I didn't say fact. Not sure how much I believe the story that the Coen brothers gave us, which is that Tim Blake Nelson was the only person on set to have read the Odyssey.
Yeah. I mean, it
seems like a Coen brothers thing to make up.
Yeah, it's clearly baked right into the script. It's quite a literate script. I don't believe. I mean, they must have at least read an abbreviated version of it, or brushed up on some aspects of it. Because the way, again, I admire the way it recontextualizes the tale. I just don't find it consistently funny. Certainly not laugh out loud funny.
Well, I don't think you could probably tell me better, but I don't think that Odyssey is consistently anything.
Mm.
Is it? It's. I think it.
In
From
what
what I
sense?
understand as a story, and from what I understand as a tale, it is relatively choppy. It is relatively. It moves from one set piece and one episode to another, and I think any adaptation could potentially struggle with that lack of consistency of storytelling.
Well, that's a good point. I do think, as I said earlier, I think the amazing thing about the original story is it does cohere. It is episodic, but it does cohere, and each chapter is a building block for the next one. Whereas I think maybe the problem with this film is it does just feel like maybe like quite a few scattershot set pieces with some Homer references thrown into it. I'm not sure if there's any cumulative power to it, which is what I got from the original text. I mean, the original text is non-linear. I mean, it's amazing. It's extraordinary to think that. I mean, I remember starting it thinking, oh, we're starting with the grown-up Telemachus who doesn't have an analogy in this film. I think Telemachus just isn't in Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't fit in.
No. But I was stunned when I started reading. I was like, oh, we're starting there, like so long after the initiating fact with Troy, and we're going to jump backwards and forwards. I was amazed at how modernistic that is. I mean, it's no detriment to this film to say that it doesn't do that, because not every adaptation of Homer has to do that. I suppose the temporal time frame of this film is more limited. That's fine. I don't mean that as a criticism, but certainly, yeah, in terms of the way it jumps from like one strange encounter to another, the principle of Homer definitely is in there. I mean, I think we ought to address. I mean, apart from T-Bone Burnett's influence, the greatest asset to the film, as one might expect, is the contribution of Roger Deakins as cinematographer, because it looks
naturally
gorgeous.
Yes,
It's
it
amazing.
really does. But that's, I mean, we can take him for granted. But when we have talked about No Country for Old Men, when we had Bo on, we had the very clear discussion of, we think he's, or certainly I said, I think he's the greatest living cinematographer.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Certainly the greatest working cinematographer. And he's up there for one of the greatest of all times. Like, at the time I mentioned people like Jack Cardiff, but he's almost unsurpassed. And the way he shoots the American vistas and the way that we feel of the sort of bluegrass time period of middle America, it's just the way he transposes you into this world is majestic.
Yeah. And interestingly, I think this was the first movie to be wholly color corrected, digitally color corrected for all of its length. I was reading about this because apparently the look of the sets when they were capturing it with the camera wasn't what they wanted. Apparently, it was very lush and very green, and they wanted that classic sepia sort of old timey deep South America look. So they digitally graded the camera work. So it's kind of like what you're seeing isn't directly what they captured, but it has been kind of course corrected a bit, but it's still got that lovely golden amber hue. I mean, it's got that look. When I think of American Deep South, I think these are the kind of vistas that I imagine as seen through this movie. Are you the same, right? Do you imagine the same thing?
I am. Yeah. And Deakins knows how to shoot that, and Deakins, he has proven across his work with the Coen Brothers that he knows how to sort of get what they're looking for, whether that be the snowy vistas of Fargo, the desolate ones of No Country for Old Men, or the iconic chain gang in this one. He is an unbelievable cinematographer.
Yeah, and obviously landscape is incredibly important. It's pivotal to the understanding of Homer. It's pivotal to the understanding of this movie. The idea that character is informed by landscape, whichever landscape it is. As you
Mhm.
said, these three guys are from a chain gang. They are, broadly familiar with the landscape itself and local customs. Even though they do, they come across people that they don't know, like strangers, some villainous, some not so. Again, kind of like with Homer, you have a blend of the familiar and the unfamiliar really butting heads throughout the whole thing. So there are textural. The Coen brothers understand the story texturally. Again, I don't believe that they didn't read either of that. They must have
Yeah.
read at least part of it, surely.
This is so they're claiming that it's through other adaptations that they're aware of the story,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, bearing in mind these are people that for years edited their own movies under a pseudonym and just pretended that Roderick James existed.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't buy it.
They're also the people that opened Fargo with a little alleged disclaimer saying it was based on a true story, which it wasn't. So
Yeah.
just literally screw with people like right off the bat. So
Well, they do have that kind of sense of humor, don't they? They do have the mischievous very much
yeah,
baked into everything that they do. So
they also have. I mean, this has come through in a lot of their films. They also do have a quite gleeful sense of maliciousness as well, which I'm imagining probably goes back to their early association with Sam Raimi, who of course comes out of the comedy horror stable. But
yes.
the scene, I hate cows, and then George, no, not the livestock,
the
and then of course
livestock.
loads of cows get machine gunned and run over. John Goodman squashes a toad, and and they think it's Pete that's being transfigured into a toad. So I know, don't worry, it's not him. I'm like, never mind, Pete, the toad got killed. That's horrible. It's just, I mean, I don't like animal cruelty, even in a comic sense. I just kind of think, oh no.
Yes.
So
I
they
know
do
what you
have
mean.
that nasty streak to them, that mean spirited streak. I mean, that comes out more in things like Burn After Reading, I think.
It
But
does.
yeah,
It does.
Yeah.
But I detect that, like me, you, sir, have a gift of the gab. So
Whatever gave that away. Yeah.
well, we mentioned T-Bone Burnett. I think that the music is very much a MacGuffin in this story. I think that the music serves the plot and it serves the characters because the Man of Constant Sorrow, the song that they record, is literally their vehicle for salvation. They don't realize that they've become it, but they do become a radio sensation. And that kind of lays the path for them. They begin they sing it at political galas, and then the reaction actually grants them a legal pardon. So I think that it's diegetic, and yes, obviously it's got its roots in country music and bluegrass, but I do think it's there to um to sort of drive the characters and the plot forward.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you're looking at the relationship between a Coen Brothers film and folksy music, I mean, this isn't Inside Llewyn Davis, which is actually about music. It's about the music
Yes,
scene in 1960s New York.
which we've also done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, we have done a few Coen Brothers. We haven't done Blood Simple yet, which is the one I really, really want to do.
Yeah, you keep saying that.
Yeah. I keep hammering that in, hoping that it will just stick at some point. Kind of like Homer did with his repeated phrases. Maybe I'm Homer. Just no, I'm not, am I?
I mean, the only Homer you can be linked to is
It's
Simpson.
Simpson. Yeah. How did I know you were going to say that? So yeah. No, I'll be Mr. Burns. Excellent, Smithers. Yeah.
I'm not going into Simpsons impressions.
No, because we've got another animated property coming up, and I dread to think what's coming next. So yeah,
We do.
yeah.
But before we do that, I think we need to finish off with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It was budgeted at $26 million and it took 71.9 at the box office. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Cinematography because, Roger Deakins was nominated. what was it, 14 times before he won.
Blade Runner, 2049. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he's also won for 1917 since as well.
Yeah.
The great talkie-ite that he is.
Yes. Yeah. There's a few of us.
Us?
Well, two of us. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's Agatha Christie and Roger Deakins.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, you're not lying. Yeah. Yeah. You're not lying.
We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll be discussing the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. And we're back. So, Sean, when I brought up the idea of doing the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, you were somewhat
nonplussed.
baffled.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go with baffled. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
You sort of said that, well, I didn't watch SpongeBob, with the implication being that I did.
You didn't? Oh,
No.
Right, okay. We're actually joined at the hip here. I didn't know that. Right, okay.
We are. I was slightly too old for SpongeBob.
Yeah, 'cause when did it?
You
was
were
it 1999 that it started? Was that right? 99?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's about right.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, the TV series, yes. By the time it sort of hit the cultural zeitgeist, it was probably a bit later. The SpongeBob movie itself came in 2004. Like, I was 13, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I was 12 when the TV series started, so I was not on the
it passed me by.
Yeah. Did you? So your children don't watch it, don't show affection for it, not at all, no? Okay.
No. I think they have seen it and they have heard of it. Not at home.
Okay.
To the extent that when I put the movie on, I was asked the question as to why. But when I explained, it was all good. And I did have to keep explaining that no, David Hasselhoff did not play Elf.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. But at least there were no sirens in this one. So, no.
There were not.
Yeah.
There were not. But when SpongeBob is denied the promotion of being restaurant manager for being just a kid, he sees the chance to prove his maturity after the evil Plankton steals King Neptune's crown, framing Mr. Krabs in the process. Mr. Krabs being the restaurant manager. Plankton.
I feel like you've skipped over a lot of scene setting there. Like, just in terms of like what SpongeBob is, who he is, like where we are.
I'm assuming prior knowledge, but maybe I should assume none.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, so Mr. Krabs is a crab.
SpongeBob is a sponge.
Yeah, SpongeBob's a sponge. We are in Soggy Bottom.
Not that one. Not those guys from the other film.
No, not that one. But anyway, so the Krusty Krab is the restaurant where SpongeBob SquarePants works, and he's looking to become the manager of the second location that Mr. Krabs is opening up. Mr. Krabs then selects his co-worker Squidward because SpongeBob is a kid, and as to make himself feel better, the depressed SpongeBob goes to the Goofy Goober ice cream parlor, where he indulges himself in ice cream with his best friend Patrick Star, who is a starfish. Mr. Krabs' rival Plankton, who is the owner of the Chum Bucket, initiates a plan to obtain the secret formula for the Krabby Patty and take over the world. Therein, he steals King Neptune's crown, sends it to Shell City, and frames Mr. Krabs for the theft.
And then a nuclear bomb goes off, and everyone dies. No.
Kind of. When Mr. Krabs is frozen in the ice by King Neptune and facing execution in 6 days, SpongeBob and Patrick embark on a road trip where they survive biker bars and deep sea monsters and, being dried into knickknacks by a horrible human diver that's akin to a cyclops in the gift shop. They are then rehydrated and hitch a high-speed ride home on the back of David Hasselhoff. and find upon returning home that the town has been enslaved by Plankton's mind control. So it does follow the Odyssey, right? It does follow the same sort of format. I mean, you can map one character onto the other, but I think it's worth noting that Steven Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, had a background in both marine biology and classical themes. So it is built around specifically the ancient mythic hero's journey, which naturally leads you to the Odyssey. Sean, what do you make of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie?
Well, firstly, that was an admirably poker face synopsis that you delivered there, which is surely one of the craziest synopses we've ever had to deliver ever in the 6.5-year history of this podcast.
I tried.
So yeah, it's like you haven't imbibed substances of any kind. That is actually the plot of the film for the uninitiated, and that was well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't quite get this. I mean, there seems to be quite a bit of that going around. It's interesting, actually, that we both aren't that familiar with SpongeBob outside of the very, very bare basics. So I thought I would be on the back foot with this. Instead, we're kind of like level with it.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I am actually on some level full of admiration as to the references back towards Homer in a family friendly kids property. I do actually think that is impressive. There is even at one point there's even a bag of wind, which in this instance is given by Princess Mindy, voiced by Scarlett Johansson's SpongeBob. It was Aeolus in the Odyssey who gave Odysseus the bag of wind, the divine wind. That's not even in the Christopher Nolan version. So SpongeBob 1, Christopher Nolan 0 on that, which is never something I ever thought I would say out loud. So again, it shows that adaptation is malleable. You don't have to have every single facet in every single adaptation, right? It happened to work in this particular movie, and I was kind of weirded out when I was like, oh, Scarlett Johansson does a voice in this. It was relatively early on in her career. It was just after Lost in Translation.
Lost in Translation was 03. This was 04.
Yeah. So
I mean, she was a child actor though, so she'd been in things.
Yeah, like the Horse Whisperer and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She'd have been in Ghost World and things. I went in really not knowing anything about this property at all, and that's why I jumped in. Like when I said you kind of need to provide a bit more context as to what the world is, because it is genuinely weird. I mean, it is genuinely kind of like in that airplane mode. Let's throw everything at the wall and just see what works, right?
Well, I cannot contextualize why he's a sponge, or why he wears SquarePants. Or why he talks, or why even underwater he's not then just completely full of water. I can't help with that.
This
you
is
just kind of have to accept things.
It's going to turn into Star Trek, and you can't predict the laws of physics. Right, we're not going to do that, but it's the fact that Mr. Krabs is voiced by Hadley from Shawshank Redemption, also Kurgan from Highlander, Clancy Brown. That weirded me out. I was like, hang on, and apparently Clancy Brown has done this since the inception of SpongeBob. Again, that's another kind of unwitting Christopher Nolan reference there. That was kind of like. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and he's doing like a piratical voice. And
he is. I mean, he's also, I mean, probably best known to children around the world as Dr. Neocortex from Crash Bandicoot.
Hang on, that was Clancy Brown as well.
That was Clancy Brown, yeah.
Okay, right. Never mind SpongeBob SquarePants. You've completely blown my mind. Is that true? Is it really true? I never knew that. Oh, that's mental. I'm gonna have to go and have a lie down. I loved Crash Bandicoot, and I never knew that was him.
There you
go. Okay. He's gone up in my estimation. Anyway, what were we talking about? SpongeBob.
We, I think, lost the plot. Why don't we jump back on at a ridiculous notion of using David Hasselhoff as a catamaran?
I mean, I suppose you've got to use David Hasselhoff for something, because he doesn't have that many uses, does he? Now, when Baywatch finished back in the 90s, but
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, this is 2004. He's still in decent shape.
yeah.
And, I mean, he was approaching 50 at this point, but he was, the same year as Dodgeball. He was, I think, beginning to embrace the early recognition that he was getting, the early niche that he was taking by being David Hasselhoff.
I mean, there's the crossover we didn't know we needed. SpongeBob and Dodgeball. Yeah, you can dodge a sponge, you can dodge a ball. But yeah,
Dodge,
I mean,
duck, dive, and sponge.
yeah. And yeah, I suppose we should make it clear that in the latter stages of this movie, it goes live action. So it does kind of.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Like,
yeah.
Patrick and SpongeBob are very clearly still the animations that we know,
yes,
and have seen. But yes, that David Hasselhoff is David Hasselhoff, because they are taken out of the water, and that's where the Cyclops is drying them out.
Yes, and then the inhabitants of Soggy Bottom then swarm the diver and rescue them. Yeah. So
I feel I should correct that it's actually Bikini Bottom, not Soggy Bottom.
Oh, Bikini Bottom. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, was there really? I mean, again, it shows how much attention I paid to it, didn't it? I was gonna say, is there really that explicit a connection to Oh Brother Where Art Thou? But
No.
yeah,
No, two bottoms, one soggy, one a bikini.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know if I've got that much more to say about this. I kind of think like I made clear, I didn't grow up with this. I do kind of admire the go for broke chutzpah weirdness of it. I mean, there are some genuinely strange and surreal moments, and I think anything that kind of gets kids into surreal humor, whether it's slapstick or whether it's verbal or whether it's character based, I think is clearly doing something right. I mean, I like that kind of humor anyway, regardless of the context in which it appears. So, I mean, one thing you could say about the Odyssey is it's not that funny in its original form. I mean, unless you
can't imagine the Greeks at this point were trying to imbue the foundational tale of a man returning post-war with comedy.
I mean, there is the bit with Polyphemus the Cyclops where Odysseus he asks Odysseus, who is he? And Odysseus replies, I am nobody. And Polyphemus takes that literally and thinks his name is nobody.
It's nobody. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody attacked me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a famous bit. Yeah. That's not in this. There's no blinding in SpongeBob. That wouldn't be appropriate for the age rating. But
no, yeah. I mean, there's some things that aren't appropriate for the age rating that sneak through. But I think what is probably most admirable about SpongeBob SquarePants movie is that, like, this is before the Simpsons movie, right? This is before the Bob's Burgers movie. This is an animated show that became a movie, but it doesn't feel like extended episodes. It doesn't feel like they've stitched episodes together, which is a criticism that was leveled at the recent Mandalorian and Grogu. It feels very much like a meticulously constructed movie because it's got the critique of capitalism, it's got the idea of the classicism and the myths that go along with Homer's Odyssey, but it's also got the sort of signature humor that you would come to expect from SpongeBob SquarePants. It's me saying that as someone that hasn't ever really watched the show.
Well, likewise. I mean, you got the silly moments like Mindy, on whom Patrick is crushing. Basically gives Patrick and SpongeBob fake mustaches made of seaweed, which is kind of we're men now, and then you get the big musical number of like now we've had fake mustache. That's funny, yes. And it kind of put me in mind of that, the bum fluff stage when I was like 12, 13 and thinking, oh, okay. And
when this movie was coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was literally going through that when this film came out. Just I didn't watch it at the time. Yeah, actually, I didn't make that parallel. Yeah. So and then you look back and think, oh, there was so much more growing up to do after that. Yes. But
Still not done it. But I mentioned it's a critique of capitalism and corporate monopolies, and like it is, because you've got like Plankton is mind controlling everybody by giving away his free bucket helmets, and then suddenly, hey, look, everyone's under his control and chanting "Hail Plankton," and like it's there. If you want to dig beneath the surface, it's there. It's in the movie. It's not the key part of the movie, and it's not the thing that you're not going to come out of the movie and say, "Oh my god, it was such a takedown of corporations." But it's in there. It's like the idea of ageism and growing up, and the fact that SpongeBob is too young or too immature to be in a managerial position. It's in there, but only if you kind of look to it. So I do think there's a lot of care that has gone into this adaptation, and yes, it's easy to overlook because it's absurd. Like we mentioned David Hasselhoff, it's ridiculous. But I think it respects the stakes from within its own story. I think it's faithful to what both SpongeBob and Patrick are trying to do. And it's serious. To them, it's serious. So to us, it's serious.
Yeah. And, there are good lines like bored, my eyes, like there are funny bits, like that in there. There's always, like a lot of kids movies, there's also just overt references to getting absolutely bladdered and waking up with a horrible hangover. This sort of goes back to Dumbo, right? Except obviously when you first watch Dumbo as a kid, you don't quite know, there's something weird going on, but you don't quite know what it is. And then when you get to like 16, 17, 18, it's oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. So, and then there's a scene in this where the I can't remember the name of the ice cream in the diner basically acts as the equivalent of acts as the equivalent of alcohol.
The Goofy Goober,
yeah. And the idea, I don't know whether that was an indirect reference to the idea of hospitality, which is very, very important to both Homer and Greek mythology. It in its original
Zeus's
form.
Law.
Zeus Law, Xenia, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I don't know whether that is another reference that's kind of studied within this movie.
See, you're ascribing far more notions of Homer's world to SpongeBob movie as we go.
Yeah, I'm amazed I'm still making coherent sentences, because I'm still astonished that Clancy Brown voiced Neo Cortex in Crash Bandicoot. I'm genuinely not over that. It's amazing. That's one of the best facts I've learned all year. Never mind anything from Homer, but yeah. But like the idea of you invoke the wrath of the seas, which in the original iteration of the Odyssey, it's Poseidon. Poseidon is personified by the viciousness of the ocean. In this, it's King Neptune. So he's got a different. Yeah.
Who no one ever wants to get on the wrong side of.
No, exactly. Yeah. And you have Alec Baldwin turning up as this random hitman biker dude. Like, yeah. So I did actually enjoy it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm not. There have been several SpongeBob movies. This franchise is showing no signs of going away anytime soon.
It's massively successful. And I think that the original creator. So I read this afterward. So Steven Hillenburg wanted to end it with this movie. That's what he saw as the end of the franchise.
That didn't work, did it?
No, we've had Sponge Out of Water and Sponge on the Run and Search for Squarepants. So,
I don't know. I saw a clip of one of the other films, and I did actually think it was very funny. I can't remember which one it was, where Plankton is basically told, Mr. Krabs tells Plankton while he's tied up, a really stupid joke that isn't funny, and then Krabs then promptly puts a pair of earphones on and says, "You'll see," and then you see SpongeBob processing the jokes. Oh, I I get it. And then, of course, he lets out that really irritating laugh, which basically becomes the equivalent of Chinese audio torture for Plankton, who begs for it to stop. And that really made me laugh. I thought that was really funny.
Well, I think SpongeBob, is similar to something like the Minions in that they take just this small and yellow, but they take influence from your Charlie Chaplins, your Buster Keatons, your Harold Lloyds, your Laurels and Hardys. I think that there is those elements, and there are those elements to these characters, which then take on things like the Odyssey, or if you look at something like Minions and Monsters, they're taking on early Hollywood, and they bring these stories to new generations, and they bring these things forward. And whether they're for us or not is a matter of debate, but the truth of the matter is they work and they make these things digestible. And whether, like you said, with the malleability of the Odyssey, it uses enough of the Odyssey to make it still recognizable, but also it's got enough of its SpongeBob personality that it doesn't put off that audience either.
Yeah, I mean, just like with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, we should stress this is a SpongeBob movie first.
Yes.
Of course it is, because you don't want to alienate the core audience with too many highfalutin literary references that they're not going to get. But I do admire the way, like with Oh Brother, the way the literary history is embedded in there. I think that does show a degree of intelligence and a degree of care. And as I said at the top of the episode, there isn't one definitive adaptation of the Odyssey, either on film or in written form. And I mean, in the introduction to the version of the Odyssey that I read, the introduction raised the debate that Homer might not have even written the very, very end of the tale, because it seems to kind of abruptly shift gears in the last book. It seems just kind of come to a bit of an abrupt, unconvincing end. I'm like, well, I mean, if it was said orally, maybe he didn't come up with it. Maybe it was somebody else. I mean, like I said, who's to say that Homer was one person, right?
Well, maybe it was Benioff and Weiss just going off of the cliff notes that they were given by the legendary author to come up with an ending that was neither satisfying nor made sense to the hardcore audience.
Hang on, there's a bus that someone's being thrown underneath. Yeah, I can't disagree with you though. I mean, at least the Odyssey was finished by the time they started putting it into cinematic form. So
that's true. Yeah, Martin, pull your finger out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're gonna draw inspiration, Martin, look at the fact that Homer actually finished his work, whether you believe it was Homer or several people or not. At least it had coherency in its finished form. So
exactly. Which oddly enough, so did the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. So Nickelodeon were on and on and on at Hillenburg to create a movie, and when he did, they gave him a $30 million budget, and he made back for them $141.1 million. So it was a huge movie when it came out. Again, I remember it coming out. It kind of found its audience, but it was surreal and goofy and weird, and it's not a Pixar movie, right? But it was better than Shark Tale, which was out the same year. It looked better than the Polar Express that came out the same year.
Yeah,
but it wasn't The Incredibles. So
it also came out the same year as Shrek 2, and we know what you think about Shrek.
So SpongeBob was a big success to the extent, as we mentioned, the franchise is still ongoing. And that will just about wrap us up for this week's episode of Frame to Frame. You can find us, as usual, in all the usual places at Frame to Frame Pod on our social media pages. You can also join us next week, where we'll be talking about Gateways to Hell. You'll be able to find out what those films will be next week. And until then, when we're talking about Gateways to Hell, I'm Andy Williams.
And I'm Sean Wilson.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll speak to you next week. Bye-bye.